China. China right now, there's not only the problem with COVID, there's a problem with U.S.-China relationships and all these things.
Yeah.
Really, very stupid. I mean, we have so many friends across the border. We work so well with them, but these countries don't need to do this to each other. It's really terrible. So we're hoping things will calm down a bit. We can do that. But I think for you, if you are really interested, why don't you go visit the Central Geosty in Firenze? I think you'll like them. They're very lovely people, and they are the most passionate I've ever seen.
But for the cells, what you will offer for me where I can go to get cells? What do you mean?
Well, the cells, here's what's happening. You know, let me tell you our business model, okay? Because I think it's really, so currently in the world, there are 3 million people with chronic spinal cord injury. And the total number of umbilical cord blood units that's available in the world is 900,000. There's not enough cells to treat everybody. And so one of the things that we have now done is we have now set up a company called Mononuclear Therapeutics. And we've developed a technique that would take 1 unit of cord blood, and we can use that 1 unit to treat 10 patients. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I understand good. I was reading a lot of this kind of thing.
Yeah. There are about 300 to 500 million mononuclear cells per unit. And the thing is, we only use 10 million cells. From each unit, we throw all the rest away. So we've now discovered a way in which we can actually use all the cells, and each unit can be used to treat 10 patients. So this then all of a sudden increases the world population to 9, the number of units to 9 billion cells, and then we'll be able to treat everybody. We are going to, currently, the model that we're using is that we are using the 3 best, largest umbilical cord blood companies in the US. We are just now negotiating the deal with the largest Chinese umbilical cord blood company. I don't want to be a cord blood collection company. I just want to deliver it to people. And then we're working with the top and the best centers in India and the top and the best centers in Germany and Norway and Italy, France,
Okay.
England.
Thank you.
Okay, so it will all happen, but it takes money, and hopefully, things will get going. The hardest part is right now, people don't believe. It's very hard to convince people that people with complete spinal cord injury can walk.
Yeah. No, and also
Okay,
the blood,
all right.
and also the bladder function and the ball function was coming back, I can say.
Oh,
This is
wow.
walking training, yeah.
Okay.
So only one time on the day I
and-
make catheterization. Only
Okay,
one time.
and I don't want to sort of one up you, but 2 people in our trials in Kunming, they got babies the natural way.
Hey.
Now
Thank you.
there's motivation. Okay. How about Carlo? You've been very patient.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
How you doing? How you doing, Dr. Waijian? Great. I got a couple of questions. The ones in the U.S., are they FDA approved, the stem cells?
Oh, yes, they will be.
They will?
They are. Yeah. No. We are currently what we're operating on is under these things called INDs. These are permission to do the clinical trials given by the FDA. They are very, very tough. They are tested left and right. So they, when they go through the phase 3 procedure, they will then be approved by the US FDA. And then once they're approved, they will be covered by insurance and the regular payment systems.
Has there been any talks about the designation of them? The 351 designation or a 361?
35136. Yes, of course. These are the Cure, the Cure Act, right? This is the
Yeah,
fast
351 is for medical research, 361
Yes.
is for unquote unquote money making.
Oh no. There's even better than that. Right now, the Cures Act that was passed last year actually gives accelerated approval for these unmet need and high priority therapies. And although we don't have formal discussions with the FDA right now yet to tell us that we fit, I believe that we fit all the highest priorities, that they will really work hard. The FDA itself will work hard to get this thing approved and to be covered. We're talking with the VA hospitals to make it available for all veterans and
Under
VA
the
hospitals.
Under the 351 designation?
Oh, no. This is going to be under both. It's going to be both for-profit and non-profit. The government systems will use it. There will be for-profit. This for-profit, non-profit thing is minor compared to the Cures Act. The Cures Act, and if you want to, I can provide some of this for Patricia to send to you. They are going to fast track. They're going to fast track our therapy, because right now there's no therapy that works for chronic complete spinal cord injury. Nothing. And so I believe that the FDA will be very helpful to us.
Second part of my question, I apologize, it's not a I gotcha kind of question, but this is something I kind of ran into, and I just kind of wanted to read the statement by the CDC. The CDC stated that umbilical cord blood cells cannot be decontaminated after collection because there are currently no validated processes for sterilization. So manufacture of derived products must be highly controlled to prevent distribution of contaminated product.
Absolutely. So we do it. There are currently over 100 cord blood banks that meet all the criteria for sterility. So we run, in order to actually now develop the ways in which we can increase the number of cells being collected around the world, because we have to get many, many millions of cells, of transplants in order to treat all the people. This umbilical cord blood cells is going to be useful not only for spinal cord injury, but also for stroke, for all these other conditions. So we just spent the last 3 years developing it so that we can actually have absolutely sterile and meeting the highest standard possible. Now we've established a state-of-the-art processing center in Hong Kong right now to test everything as best as we can. And we've now been treating patients for other conditions. Well, we're really excited right now because these cells are very, very safe. And by the way, the cells that we have transplanted now, 41 patients, were all from California. And the cells that we're going to be getting will be from Colorado, from North Carolina, from New York. And these are all approved by the FDA. They have the BLA, Biological License Application. They're approved for use in humans. And it's going to be very, very high standard. And the FDA has taken us, we already got one approval from them. COVID stopped that. But we're going to get a second approval for another trial from them. And I don't think that so far we have seen no risk at all. By the way, the way you handle so-called contamination is you keep everything sterile. The umbilical cord blood that is collected from a birth, everything is under sterile, and then we test everything. We actually test, we're growing out viruses, we're growing out bacteria, we're growing out everything possible. We test for over 100 different diseases from each umbilical cord blood unit. They're very, very safe.
Is that from when it's first cultivated? There's also another question about it being even alive by the time it's injected.
It's absolutely alive. We not only test them for viability and so on forth, we actually grow the cells. And we do what are called colony-forming units. And I have to say that the method that we're now using is the best that's available, because we're getting like twice as many CFUs, colony-forming units, than any other of the cord blood banks. So there's no question. It takes a huge amount of work, and we have like 300 protocols. You know, everything has been done exactly right. Everybody's trained and all these cells are set up so that we can ship them anywhere in the world. But we don't want to do this. My business, or at least my heart, isn't at collecting cord blood to give to people. I'd rather have the cord blood banks do it, and they can do it better than I can. I just want to develop the technology for them to do that. And one of the ways in which we're now doing it is I want to create robots that would do everything in sterile settings. So we really reduce the cost by using robotics to have no human touch on the cells. They're brought directly from the birthing centers right into the processing units, and they're all GMP, good manufacturing GMP and GCP, good GLP, good laboratory practice. Everything is at the highest standard possible, and everything is tested over and over and over again. This way, most of these people, this used to be like a $70,000 procedure, and that's because everything has to be done by hand, and you have to over and over again. Now we've actually lowered the cost down, so it's going to be less than 20,000, and probably even less over time. Just at the very beginning, it's going to be this much, but we are actually trying to get it so that there's so many people in this world who need this therapy and who cannot afford the Western U.S. prices.
Last time we said, go ahead.
So in my opinion, what has to happen is that we have to not only get good technology that would make sure that sterility, safety, everything is observed. We actually must be able to move this very quickly so we can collect, let's say, 2-3 million cord blood units per year to meet the demand.
Would you ever do olfactory?
No.
Okay, before we shift subjects, let's.
By the way, we started a lot of the olfactory stuff here. I mean, Hong Yun-Huang trained here, trained at the Keck Center, and he used the procedures that we developed, and actually he has had very, very few sterility or infection issues. So olfactory and sheathing glial cells do work, but they're a lot of trouble. Not only are they a lot of trouble, in the U.S., using fetal cells would never fly. Very difficult. There's no problem at all using umbilical cord blood cells. Okay? No controversy.
Okay, let's move on to a whole lot of questions that are still waiting here in the queue. When do bowel and bladder begin to return? And is it the same whether or not the people have the cells?
The answer is, it is not the same. I'm sorry. It is the same. We were really shocked to find in the 60 patients that was just published, we didn't transplant cells into any of these patients, but we did do surgery in the patients. So 30 of the patients got surgery with untethering of the spine, with 30 of the patients got no surgery, nothing, and they compared them. And it was really shocking that and neither of the groups got cells at all, and both groups had bowel and bladder recovery.
And when does that start in the year?
We did not see the recovery until at least in 1 year. It's probably 9-10 months. That's when it started. When they were leaving the hospital at 6 months, they weren't showing it. We were really quite surprised. I don't know. By the way, in Hong Kong, where none of the patients walked, no patient recovered bowel or bladder. The walking is essential.
Okay, so related to that, you showed several charts of scores, and many of them seem to drop at week 48.
Yes.
They would go up and up and then drop. Why is that, and does it return?
Yes. So about a third of the patients, they left the hospital at 24 weeks, which is 6 months. By the way, there's no way we can do that in the U.S. Keep them in the hospital for 6 months. But anyway, we will walk them for 6 months. But what happened was that those patients who went home just stopped walking. They just sat in their chair for 6 months, and many of a third of them actually declined. But the good news is that we yelled at them. We were saying, how could you, we worked you so hard and so forth, you just sat there for 6 months. Anyway, they were sheepishly came back to the hospital, and several of them actually did 2 more weeks of recovery. And it's as if their spinal cord could remember the walking. They recovered much, much more faster when they did the walking at the end of 1 year. And so I really think that what has to happen is that these patients, they must go home, and then at home, they must do at least an hour a day of standing and walking, if at all possible.
Okay,
Or else they'll lose it.
a quick answer to a question somebody asked about Central GUC. Send an email to sciproject@rutgers.edu and I'll get you the contact information for that.
Yeah.
It's
If you
easier
want
than
to,
trying
they
to
have
do
a
it this
beautiful,
way.
they have a whole series of YouTube things on Central GUC. And I take the world of this group, and I recommend them highly.
Okay, after you get FDA approval, how soon after that will the trial start?
Oh, I'm hoping that we'll get, as soon as we get approval, we'll pull the trigger on. We have to still raise the money. I hope we'll get the money this summer, and we hope by September or October we will get the approval of the FDA. I mean, I fully hope that we'll get the trial going before the end of 2021.
Okay, the website for Central GUC is now in chat for anyone who's looking for it. How do you know if you are less than 3 vertebral levels?
Oh, well, you don't know. You bring, at our hospital, you get evaluated. There's something called a screening visit. So you come in and they will screen you. They'll look at your MRI and so on forth. The reason for for excluding people who are more than 3 levels, because our current requirement is that we must expose the whole lesion site so that we can inject above and below the injury site. And unless we actually expose it, we can see things that it's probably not as safe as it should be. So we actually have considered the possibility in a patient with a very widespread lesion or even 2 lesions in the spinal cord that we would allow multiple injections into the spinal cord. This, I think, will happen. As people become used to this procedure, they will allow different kinds of surgeries to. And by the way, the doctors, these neurosurgeons who've been doing this procedure, they've been saying to me anyway that this is a very straightforward surgery. It's straightforward, just has to be done well, has to be done by an experienced doctor. But they say injection, it's a 2.5-hour procedure.
Okay, somebody named Galaxy 58, have you already asked the question? It came that way. Only that identification. So if you're Galaxy 58 and want to ask a question, feel free to do so.
Yes. Hi. Yeah, I'm here from Canada. So my question is what I had written down is there any collaboration with any center in Canada, or my husband is they say C4, C5, C5, C6. Yeah, so they're not. I still not sure.
So we're in Canada. We're in Canada.
We are in Toronto.
Okay. So at the present time, we don't have any discussions going on because we actually don't have widespread trials in the U.S., but it will spread into U.S. I know many people at Toronto Western. I know the head of the neurosurgery there. I know many of the people. The rehabilitation group is excellent. So it will take time. I think when we do the phase 3 study, so what we're doing now is what is called a phase 2 study. We've already done phase 1 and phase 2 in China. So we're going to do a phase 2 study in the US, and then shortly after that, we will do a global phase 3. And this would include many centers in the US, Canada, and we're very likely to do South America, Europe, and on forth. But Canada is a low-hanging fruit for us since it's really close to us. Okay, so I am pretty confident that Toronto will have something going. And by the way, they're very good in Toronto. They have lots of experience and a great deal of interest in this.
There is the Lyndhurst Center for Spinal.
Yes, I know them very well. Michael Fellings and Charles Hatter. I mean, I've been working in this field for so long. I feel so old. I know all these people.
But there won't be any recruitment from Canada for the trials. When they're approved, it will only be from the US.
Well, look, we're only going to do 40 patients in this upcoming trial. I would suggest waiting until 2022, where we will do a phase 3. And then the phase 3 trial, there's no problem. And by the way, this is not going to be that expensive a treatment. People, we're hoping that this treatment will be somewhere in the range of $20,000 or something like that. And that's, the cells. The hardest and most expensive part of this whole thing is actually the rehabilitation. 6 hours a day, 6 days a week for 6 months is very expensive. And we're looking for solutions. And some of these solutions will be to actually do a lot of home walking and so on and forth. There are ways to do this. And there are many, many people with spinal cord injury who need this all over the world. So we want to do this, find the lowest cost and the best solution possible for everybody.
Okay, speaking of Canada, and I'm going to call on Heather to she made an offer in the chat. I'm going to ask her to make it live.
Yeah. Hold on.
Hi, yes, so we're from Welcome Spinal Cord Recovery and Wellness Center. And I know I talked to you a few months ago, but we're just located north of Toronto in Newmarket. And we are totally willing to be part of a trial if you do come north to Canada, or if you're requiring any activity-based training or walking facility in or the GTA. Mm-hmm.
We're so grateful to you. I mean, listen, the walking of the patients is a work of the hardest work, and it's a work of love. I'm so grateful to what you guys do. It's a lot easier to do surgery than to walk the patients 6 hours a day, 6 days a week.
I have a number of my staff on right now that's probably shaking their heads. Yes. There's a lot of activity-based training and walking, so. Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're getting close to 9, so I want to ask a couple of quick questions here. When you say the top age is 65, does that mean up to 65 or including people who are 65? Because somebody's having a birthday this year.
You did the same thing the other day. You blitz, no sé qué. What play?
So, in my opinion, there's no difference between 64 and 65 or even 70. I'm over 70, so look, well, at the present time, our trial is currently, the inclusion criteria is 18 years and 64 years. 18 to 64, up to January of 65. And then Patricia knows this because we've been asked this question at rehab centers before. Many people say, "Oh, I'm 69. How can you not allow me?" And so I said, "Look, if you can get 20 of you guys together, we'll do a trial for you guys." I regretted that ever since because many people are calling. But yeah, I don't think that there should be any reason why we shouldn't be doing older people. And by the way, there is now a growing number of old people who have incomplete spinal cord injuries, and we need to be able to walk these patients as well. So anyway, the answer is I'm committed to get older people better. And by the way, today, 75 years old is young. You've got 20 years after 75.
So
After all,
yes, and after he said he'd do that group, he wrote my phone number down. So the next day my phone went off the wall. And I will say one thing about people in that age group. They understand better than any other age that a clinical trial is not something you do for yourself. It's something you do for the community. Because person after person was saying to me, even if it doesn't help me, some younger person will not have to live the life that I've lived if we can learn from that. So last question, have you heard about a study, they thought it was in China, that has a walking program 3 hours a day, 5 days a week for 5 months? Have you heard about it? And what do you think of that?
It was really interesting because when I first started the program here in the U.S., all the U.S. rehab centers said, "Oh, can we do 3 hours a day, 3 days a week for 3 months?" And I said, "No." In fact, I think our group, the Kunming group, Dr. Chu in Kunming, she thinks that even 666 is not enough, and we're continuing to see improvement of the patients, and so the answer to the question, at least for our trial, we won't be doing that. And as I have already pointed out, we must find a solution for people. You can walk in a swimming pool. You can, and by the way, we've been walking people in India. By the way, I taught a number of different centers in India to walk patients, and oh my God, they are so highly motivated for walking. They'd be walking in the dark. They wouldn't want to go home after 6 or 7 o'clock at night when it's dark outside. They're still walking, in these rehab centers in India. And I can tell you, the highly motivated patients are the ones who recover the most in India. And so there are 3 or 4 centers in India that have been doing the walking and have been very successful in getting patients, but they're not getting the cells. We really must get the cells approved. And once they do, I think the combination of the cells and the walking really are the best combination.
Okay, I want to thank Wise for his presentation tonight. I want to thank all of you for coming and for the excellent questions. It's funny, every time we have this, questions come up that we haven't heard before. So if we didn't get to your question, or if after this is over you get a question, send it to SCI for spinal cord injury, SCI project at rutgers.edu. If you're interested in a copy of the paper of the study, also write and we will send you a copy of the paper. In addition to thanking Wise and everyone for coming, I want to thank Jim Bennett, who is our technician. He's the one who keeps popping up those answers when you need web links and they show up in chat. And he's our orchestra at the beginning when you're listening to music. So we couldn't do any of this without Jim. So this is the last of the regular scheduled Friday night open house. Mark your calendars now for the 3rd Thursday in July, which is Thursday, July 15th, for our summer open house. And